I shamelessly pursued Matthew Crawford for 4 years. He grew weary of my persistence. With pressure from him, my family anxiously sent me abroad. He said, "Whatever it takes, make sure she stops clinging to me. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless." Drugs, hypnosis, electroshock therapy. These methods were indeed effective. I forgot the feeling of loving him. Even my impression of him became blurry and unclear. He finally relented and allowed me to return home. I actively avoided places where he might appear, because my mom told me that I couldn't afford to offend that incredibly handsome man. When I saw him kissing my sister, I secretly took out my phone to snap a photo. His eyes were fierce and cold. I shrank into the corner, stammering, "I'm sorry, I just thought you two looked good together, like a perfect match." For some reason, the man who usually never showed his emotions had eyes that trembled violently. Ding! This novel reminds you to click the subscribe button in the bottom right corner to read the complete novel. Ever since I returned from abroad, I've felt like my brain isn't working properly. I spend most of my day sleeping. I think I might be ill. Mom tries to comfort me, saying there's no need to worry. You've always been a little sleepyhead, not disciplined like your sister. It's all right, everyone's constitution is different. If you're tired, just sleep. I pour myself a large cup of black coffee, hoping to perk myself up. But it has no effect. I rub my temples, feeling frustrated, when suddenly there's a knock at the door. The butler announces, "Miss Lewis has returned with Mr. Crawford." My parents' eyes immediately light up with joy. Dad rushes out to greet them. Mom is about to follow, but suddenly remembers something. She looks at me apologetically. "Olivia, you." I nod understandingly. I know, Mr. Crawford doesn't like me. Sister's engagement is important. I'll go upstairs, I need to catch up on sleep anyway. Mom gives me an appreciative look as I yawn. I've only taken a few steps when I suddenly remember I've forgotten my coffee cup. I want to try another cup later. As I turn back, I inadvertently meet a cold, piercing gaze. Almost instinctively, I forget about the coffee cup and bolt upstairs. As if running late would be the death of me. Only when I'm in my room, with the door locked, and a table pushed against it for good measure, does my heart finally stop racing. I can't explain why, but whenever I see Matthew Crawford, I'm overcome with a strong emotion. Fear. Mom says it's because Matthew is a natural-born leader, and anyone would feel intimidated around him. Especially a little pushover like you. Mom tells me not to appear in front of Mr. Crawford. Mr. Crawford, he doesn't like people who seem cute but are actually dim-witted. His eyes only linger on exceptional girls like your sister. Do you know what league the Crawfords are in? If we could be connected to their family, we'd skip generations of hard work. Olivia, you need to be sensible. I am sensible. So, every time Matthew Crawford comes to our house, I actively avoid him. Mom is very pleased with this, sometimes patting my head. It's the greatest reward for me, and I cherish it. That's why I've never dared to tell Mom. Even if she didn't say anything, I would still avoid him. The aura around him is too overwhelming. It makes me very uncomfortable. Very oppressive. As if my heart is being squeezed tightly in someone's fist. There's also an inexplicable feeling of bitterness. Laughter and cheerful voices drift up from downstairs. Amidst these joyful sounds, I drift off into a troubled sleep. When I woke up, the sky was dim. It was already evening. The mansion was very quiet. Matthew Crawford must have left. I was hungry. I opened the door, wearing a white princess nightgown, and went downstairs barefoot to find something to eat. The floor was cold, and I felt my mind clear up a bit. I was standing by the kitchen counter, heating up some bread. Suddenly, the study door opened. Matthew, in an impeccable suit, walked out of the study. In the warm yellow light, his features looked even more chiseled, his figure tall and straight. His face was like a sculpture. He looked like a descending god of life and death. But he was too cold. His aura was cold, his eyes were cold. Even the lead gray cufflinks on his suit gave off a cold light. Across the long living room, his gaze fell lightly on me. His thin lips were pressed into a straight line. Intimidating. Almost instantly, I came to my senses. Covering my head, I crouched under the dining table, trying to hide, but only drawing more attention to myself. Teresa's light footsteps flew down the stairs. She rushed into Matthew's arms, clinging to his arm and swaying. "Are you leaving already? You haven't even seen my new headshots. Won't you stay for dinner?" Teresa's demeanor was usually aloof, but now she revealed a girlish coquettishness, her voice sweet and melodious. Like a beautiful bird, with glossy feathers and a dulcet voice. Matthew didn't speak. He coldly looked towards me, shivering under the table. Teresa's smile faded. She bit her lip and said, "If you're busy, we can look another time. Come on, I'll see you out." Matthew stood still. The pressure emanating from him was so heavy, as if he hadn't heard Teresa at all. Teresa opened her mouth but didn't dare to speak. After a long while, he spoke, his voice deep. "All right, I'll stay for dinner." Expressions of surprise flashed across Teresa's face. Matthew's lips curled slightly. "What are you afraid of? She's forgotten everything, hasn't she?" Matthew strode to the dining table with his long legs and crouched down. His suit trousers outlined his muscular leg lines. "Olivia, do you still recognize me?" I timidly raised my eyes, then lowered them again, not daring to meet his gaze. I nodded slowly. But suddenly, it felt like needles were pricking the tips of my fingers and toes. Like a stress response, I cried out, tightly closing my eyes, shaking my head desperately. "I don't know you. Don't hit me. I don't know you." The atmosphere at the dinner table was strange. Mom and Dad were desperately trying to liven things up. But Matthew just ate quietly, his demeanor aristocratic. He showed no intention of speaking, which made Mom and Dad's enthusiasm seem awkward. My sister sat with a dark expression, not saying a word. I didn't dare to reach for any food, only taking small bites of my mashed potatoes. When we finally made it through the meal, Mom and Dad seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. As Matthew was about to leave, I suddenly remembered something and called out to him. "Mr. Crawford, wait a moment." Everyone turned to look at me in surprise, including Matthew. His brow furrowed slightly, clearly impatient. "Just a second, please?" I held up my fingers to show how brief I'd be. I ran upstairs and quickly came back down with a metal box in my hands. All eyes were on me as I opened the lid and asked, "Mr. Crawford, is this yours?" On top were several ID photos. Some were passport-sized, others larger. It was clear they weren't obtained through official channels, as some had embossed stamps and others had dried glue on the back. They'd clearly been removed from various documents. The photos showed a younger Matthew. Though his features were already quite striking, there was still a hint of youthfulness in his eyes. Besides the photos, there were various odds and ends. Sweet wrappers, cigarette packets, used-up pen refills, crumpled exam papers, and so on. Matthew fixed me with a piercing gaze. I bit my lip before daring to continue. "I found it in a corner of my wardrobe. I don't know who put it there, but I recognized your photos, so I thought it must be yours." Matthew's eyes flickered slightly, seeming to study me. I felt myself shrinking under his gaze, my shoulders drooping. He spoke, "It's not mine. Throw it away." "Oh, all right," I said, tossing it into a nearby bin before turning to go upstairs. Suddenly, Matthew's eyes took on a dangerous glint. "Olivia, you did that on purpose, didn't you?" he called after me. Confused, I asked, "What?" He seemed to see right through me, his gaze mocking as he gave a derisive laugh. "Nothing. Nice performance. Don't bother next time. I'm not interested in watching." With that, he turned and left. Mom shut the door. Teresa had been holding back all evening and finally broke down crying at the table. Dad, heartbroken but furious, slapped me across the face. Caught off guard, I stumbled and fell to the floor. My head hit the corner of the table. It throbbed with pain. Mom put her arms around Teresa's shoulders and said to me, "Olivia, don't blame your father for being harsh. Tonight, you've really disappointed us." Have you forgotten everything I've told you? Why did you go downstairs? Why did you talk to him? Are you that desperate? Blood trickled from the wound on my forehead into my eye. My vision blurred red. Covering the bleeding cut, I tried to explain. I'm sorry, I thought he'd left. I didn't mean to. Teresa suddenly grabbed my collar, screaming hysterically. Running downstairs dressed like that, deliberately prancing around barefoot in front of him. Trying to get his attention with that silly box. Olivia, who are you trying to seduce? Do you know who Matthew is? Do you know who you are? How dare you set your sights on him? Do you realize that because of your indecent behavior tonight, I might lose him? Can't you live without a man? You'd even try to seduce your own sister's boyfriend. With that, Teresa stormed towards the door. Mom quickly grabbed her arm. Teresa, where are you going at this hour? Teresa glared at me hatefully. It's either her or me in this house. I'm leaving. Soon, we heard the car engine start in the garage. Mom sighed deeply. Dad slammed the door in anger. I spoke up quietly. Should I stay somewhere else tonight? Mom hesitated for a moment. Where would you go? I'll stay at a hotel. I'm used to it from living abroad. Back then, when I couldn't bear the inhumane treatment, I'd escape from the hospital whenever I could. I'd stay at the cheapest motels, hiding from the painful treatments they'd arranged for me. But Teresa would always find me quickly and bring me back. Mom was silent for a while, then nodded. You were indeed in the wrong tonight. Go stay somewhere else. When your sister calms down, I'll bring you back home. In the hotel room, standing in front of the mirror, I carefully wiped the blood from my forehead. The wound was quite large, a plaster wouldn't cover it entirely. But at this late hour, I didn't dare leave the room to buy bandages. Usually, I never get enough sleep. Tonight, however, the stinging pain on my forehead might keep me awake. I can't remember why I was sent abroad. All I recall is that my sister has always been smarter and more accomplished than me. From childhood onwards. Wherever she went, she seemed to radiate brilliance. That's why Mom and Dad had the highest expectations for her. My sister began modeling as a child, and later became famous as a beautiful academic prodigy. As for me, apart from having looks comparable to hers, I was utterly useless. So I understood our parents' favoritism. I agreed with their decision to allocate more resources to my more capable sister. But was this favoritism the reason they sent me abroad? I remember taking handfuls of pills and enduring painful treatments overseas. Mom told me on the phone that it would make me smarter. Yet, I feel my brain has become even less functional since returning from abroad. Besides being constantly drowsy, my reactions are slower. Did they bring me back because the treatment failed? Do they dislike me even more now that I'm more foolish? During the day, I wandered the streets. At night, as soon as it got dark, I returned to the hotel to sleep. I had been staying at the hotel for a week, but Mom still hadn't told me to come home. I was out of money. I sent Mom a message. I discovered she had blocked me. At noon, while I was sitting in a daze in the hotel lobby, I saw a striking couple standing at the entrance to the indoor garden in the distance. The man stood tall, his back to me, and I could only see his broad, straight shoulders. The woman had curves in all the right places, wearing an elegant long dress, smiling up at the man with her small face. But I could only see half of her profile. I shook my head, trying to see more clearly. But I had been having headaches these past few days, and everything looked as if it was behind a layer of fog. It actually made the scene before me more atmospheric. I took out my phone and captured this beautiful moment. However, I had forgotten to turn off the flash, and the shutter sound was at its loudest. They quickly noticed me. The man's jawline seemed very tense. His gaze towards me was quite unfriendly. I saw the two of them start walking towards me, and I became so flustered I couldn't sit still. Until Matthew and Teresa stood before me, looking down. Olivia, what are you doing here? Matthew's voice was still cold. I looked at Teresa, too scared to speak. Matthew extended his long hand. Give me your phone. I nervously handed my phone to him. How strange, he knew my password. Even I didn't know what my 6-digit password meant. I thought of everyone in my family's birthdays, but it wasn't any of those. Matthew pulled up that photo, his eyes dangerously narrowing. Why were you taking secret photos? Olivia, what are you planning to do to Teresa? Are you trying to hurt her again? I shook my head desperately, almost in tears. No, I'm not. I swear. I know my sister is more accomplished than me. I'm so ordinary, so I've never thought about competing with her for anything. But Mom said I once appeared in full dress at my sister's new drama release conference. Some reporters said that while my sister and I look similar, our auras are completely different. My sister is elegant and serene, while I'm quirky and pure. They said I have a wider range as an actress. So the leading role my sister had secured suddenly became uncertain. In the end, I didn't get the part either. But my sister lost her chance to become a top-tier actress. So my sister hates me, hates that I deliberately stole everyone's attention. That I can't stand to see her succeed. No matter how I explain, no one believes me. That day, I wasn't trying to steal my sister's spotlight, I just wanted to witness her success. I spent all my pocket money to rent an expensive gown, just so I wouldn't embarrass my sister. I never thought it would end up overshadowing her. I really didn't mean to. But no one believes me. During that time when everyone was against me, my family members took turns expressing their disappointment in me. It was so suffocating. Like a nightmare. I never want to experience that again. Please believe me, I didn't. I helplessly grabbed Matthew's sleeve, pleading. He frowned and said, Olivia, are you still pretending? You haven't really lost your memory, have you? I don't know if I've lost my memory or not, please believe me. There's something wrong with my memory. I remember some things, but I've forgotten others. But what I've forgotten, I really can't remember. Matthew waved the phone, a contemptuous smile curling his lips. Then let me ask you, why did you take a photo of me and Teresa? Wasn't it to sell to the media and ruin Teresa's career? His gaze was so disdainful, as if looking at a rat in the gutter. I instinctively felt so lowly. As if I had really done something shameful. I started crying, looking down at my toes. I'm sorry, I just thought you two looked good together, like a perfect match. When you stand together, it's like a fairy tale come to life. Matthew's grip on my hand suddenly froze. What did you say? His cold eyes seemed to tremble violently. That evening, with nowhere else to go, I decided to sneak back home. If Teresa had forgiven me, perhaps I could return? Surely Mom was just too busy and had forgotten she had another daughter out in the cold? I stood outside the mansion, dazzled by the colorful lights in the garden. Inside, the house was ablaze with light and laughter. Mom was placing a tiara on Teresa's head. Teresa looked shy and demure, like a true princess. Dad clapped excitedly, tears in his eyes. Matthew's lips curved in a slight smile as he gazed at Teresa. The light from the crystal chandelier cascaded down, soft and warm, creating a scene of perfect happiness. So tonight was Teresa's birthday. Which meant it was my birthday too. Teresa and I are twins. All our lives, we'd celebrated our birthdays together. Except Teresa was always the star. Everyone gathered around her to sing happy birthday. Only she could blow out the candles. Everyone only cared about her wishes. And I was only worthy of the slice of cake Teresa cut for me. Once, I curiously blew out the candles first. Teresa cried, heartbroken. Dad angrily flipped the cake, shouting, "Nobody's having any." Later, Mom and Dad took Teresa to a posh hotel to make up for the ruined birthday. I knelt on the floor, eating the smashed cake. I smiled bitterly at the bright lights. So Mom hadn't forgotten her little girl was outside after all. She'd forgotten she had another daughter besides the dazzling Teresa. Wiping away my tears, I turned and left. With no money for a hotel, I was forced to sleep on a bench at the bus station. At night, the chilly spring rain blew into the corridor, and the wind was cold. I think I had a fever. In my hazy state, I had a long, vivid dream. In the dream, I was 18 years old. That day, my essay was read aloud by the teacher, who said my writing had a special spark. I had never received such praise before. Coincidentally, it was also my birthday. I happily ran home, wanting to tell my mom that I had bought myself a tiny cake. I could finally blow out candles with my sister. She could blow out the big ones, and I'd be content with the small ones. I could finally make my own little wish. I excitedly burst through the door, only to find the house empty. That night, I sat alone with a palm-sized cake, watching Teresa's celebration party on TV. It turned out that Teresa's new drama had wrapped up filming, and Mom and Dad had gone with her to London. They celebrated Teresa's birthday in the joyous atmosphere of the wrap party, giving it a unique significance. Mom and Dad had completely forgotten about me, left behind at home. That night, I wandered aimlessly through the streets, carrying the cake. I thought, if just one person wished me happy birthday, I wouldn't end it all. But everyone hurried past, no one noticing me. Disheartened, I walked towards the canal. That's where I met Matthew. His tall figure was standing on the railing. The wind billowed his white shirt, making him look unsteady. "Hey, do you want to die too? Wait until you've had some cake with me, then we can die together, okay?" I called out to him with a smile. Matthew turned to look at me, his face expressionless. After what seemed like ages, he jumped down from the railing. This was the first time I'd ever had a birthday that was truly my own. I treated it with great solemnity. I made a wish solemnly. I blew out the candles solemnly. I cut the cake solemnly and gave Matthew a piece. Matthew had brought lots of beer, and I got drunk. In my drunken state, I laughed and cried, pulling him towards the canal. We have to time it right to jump in the canal. If we wait too long, the early morning joggers will come, and we won't be able to die. Matthew suddenly raised an eyebrow and smiled. He grabbed hold of my delirious self and said, "I suddenly don't feel like dying today. Let's postpone it. I'll take you home first." That night, I rambled incoherently as he carried me on his back. When he set me down at my front door, he said softly, "Happy birthday, little madwoman." Later, I learned his name was Matthew Crawford, the only son of the Crawford family in Westminster. That night had been the anniversary of his mother's death. But his father had brought home an illegitimate son about the same age as Matthew. Unable to bear the betrayal, he had wanted to punish his father by taking his own life. His brow was always furrowed with worry. He didn't like to talk. He had no friends. He was always alone. When I saw him, I was reminded of myself. When I saw his furrowed brow, my heart ached for no apparent reason. Seeing him gave me an inexplicable sense of security. I wanted to talk to him, to be close to him. So I always followed behind him. I was fearless, loudly proclaiming my love. I wanted him to feel my passionate affection. I wanted him to know that someone in this world loved him unconditionally. But he was always cold, keeping his distance from me. I thought he was just being reserved. After careful consideration, I decided I should be even more passionate, even braver. Surely one day I would melt his heart. Until I saw Matthew sitting in the front row at my sister's new drama launch event. Teresa shyly introduced him to the cameras. "This is my boyfriend Matthew Crawford. He loves me very much." In that moment, I was completely stunned. I felt like I had been acting in a ridiculous TV drama. No one had invited me, but I had volunteered to play the role of a complete fool. My mind went blank, and I lost the ability to think. The launch event was still ongoing, but I picked up my skirt and ran out. I interrupted Teresa's interview. The cameras turned towards me. They said I looked like a runaway princess, noble yet wronged. Compared to the meticulously styled Teresa on stage. They said I had a natural vitality about me. That silhouette was uploaded online. Many people said they loved my unsullied eyes, tagging various directors to cast me as the lead. Soon, people recognized that Teresa and I looked 70% alike. Someone leaked that we were sisters born to the same mother. They said the lead role in Teresa's new drama would suit me better. In an online poll started by fans, I won over Teresa with 80% of the votes. I had never competed with my sister for anything before. But seeing the online poll results, I suddenly had an illusion. Was I really not that bad? Could I, for once, fight for something for myself? Just this once. That day, I went to find Matthew. I asked him if he could like me if I were the one playing the lead role. Matthew laughed mockingly. No wonder Teresa says that ever since you were little, you've always wanted to snatch everything she had. Don't you know that becoming an excellent actress has been your sister's lifelong dream? Olivia, your selfishness is disgusting. Each of his words was like a knife stabbing into my heart. I was so hurt, I didn't even realize he had said it was me who had snatched things from Teresa. I looked at him in disbelief. If you think I'm disgusting, then what about that night when we cried and laughed together? When you carried me home on your back? The mockery in Matthew's eyes intensified. Did you think I would have given you a second glance if you weren't Teresa's sister? I was just afraid you'd do something stupid and affect Teresa's career. Olivia, you didn't actually think I liked you, did you? But I didn't believe his words. I trusted my own judgment. When he was with me, Matthew's usually tense demeanor would relax. He would curl his lips slightly, he would smile and respond to me. So I thought, even if he didn't like me, he certainly didn't dislike me. My requirements were so low. As long as he didn't dislike me, it was enough to make me overjoyed. So I became even more reckless in my affection for him. When someone talked behind his back, saying he was fake, I scratched their face without mercy. When it was his turn for cleaning duty, I never let him lift a finger, because I couldn't bear to see him do menial tasks. I remembered his mother's birthday and death anniversary, and his own birthday even more clearly than he did. The used-up pen refills, the discarded candy wrappers, the empty cigarette boxes. Even the test papers he carelessly threw in the bin, I treasured them all, collecting them carefully. I even humbly told him, "It's okay if you treat me as a substitute for my sister, just don't push me away." Later, Matthew couldn't stand it anymore. He scolded me. "Olivia, don't you have any self-respect?" I smiled and said, "You don't understand. You don't understand a person who has never felt love before. If there's someone who can make her give all her love unconditionally, it's also the belief that supports her to keep living." Later, Matthew declared that he didn't want to see me anymore. "Whatever it takes, make her stop pestering me. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless. I've heard there's a hypnosis technique abroad that can make people selectively forget certain things. Send Olivia there." I was sent abroad by my parents. But what awaited me wasn't just hypnosis. There were also various inhumane methods that drove me to the brink of collapse. The masked attending physician said as he pushed the fluorescent green liquid into my vein, "I'm reshaping your mental world. Completely scrambling it, then reshuffling. You'll thank me for this." In a haze, I heard someone in a rage. "Why hasn't her fever broken yet? What are you lot good for?" Someone stammered nervously. "Mr. Crawford, Miss Lewis has developed a strong drug resistance. She must have used a large amount of medication before. So ordinary fever reducers are simply ineffective. Why would she use so much medication?" "She wasn't ill." It sounded like Matthew's voice. Only, it was trembling slightly. Very different from his usual cold, deep tone. The person paused for a moment before saying, "Miss Lewis's blood shows significant drug residues, including antibiotics and psychotropic medications." "Psychotropic?" Matthew asked in disbelief. "Olivia doesn't have any mental illness, why would she be taking psychotropic drugs? Since she returned to the country, she's been listless and uninterested in everything." "Is it because of these drugs?" The doctor pondered. "It's likely related. Most psychotropic drugs have sedative effects. While providing mental stability, they also slow the patient's reactions and dull their thinking." "But Mr. Crawford." "What?" "Besides the drugs, it seems Miss Lewis has also suffered severe physical trauma." "Physical trauma?" The doctor gently pulled open my collar. "Mr. Crawford, look, Miss Lewis's wounds don't appear to be ordinary injuries. May I unbutton her clothes to examine her thoroughly?" Meeting Matthew's icy gaze, the doctor seemed to sense danger and quickly changed his tune. Mr. Crawford, perhaps you should examine her yourself." "Get out," Matthew said. The door closed, and the room fell silent. After who knows how long, Matthew took a deep breath. He reached out and unbuttoned my shirt, one button at a time. As more and more scars were exposed before his eyes, his hands shook more and more violently. In the end, he could barely grasp a single button. The air was cool, and my skin involuntarily broke out in goosebumps. I couldn't help but curl up, moaning in pain. It felt like I was back in those countless dark, damp nights that seemed endless. Suddenly, a tear fell on my chest. Scalding, intense. It was the warmth I had longed for. But as it landed on my ice-cold skin, the heat quickly dissipated, taking with it what little warmth I had left. Matthew dialed a number, his voice laden with terrifying danger. Find out everything about Olivia's experiences abroad these past 3 years. Everything! Now. I remained in a coma. Sometimes I convulsed with high fever. At times, my hands and feet felt so cold, as if I might die the next second. In my sleep, I relived the loneliness and helplessness of the past 25 years. I think I finally understood why Mom and Dad didn't love me. Because of the twin pregnancy, Mom was left with indelible stretch marks on her belly. This became her lifelong regret. After the same 10 months of pregnancy, my sister brought endless glory to our parents from the moment she was born. Because Teresa started modeling for children's clothing adverts at a young age, Dad, whose business had never taken off, found a new opportunity. Because Teresa excelled in her studies, Mom became a respected figure in the Parent-Teacher Association. As Teresa's entertainment career became more prominent, Mom and Dad enjoyed a life that transcended social classes. Because Teresa had the prospect of marrying into the Crawford family, Mom and Dad's dream of entering high society was about to come true. And me? What did I bring to Mom and Dad? Mediocre grades. An unfulfilled dream of wealth because I refused to cooperate with photographers. A contentment with ordinariness and lack of ambition for the future. The one time I desperately tried to compete, I nearly ruined Teresa's career and marriage prospects. I suppose I really wasn't worthy of their affection. And my obsessive pursuit of and love for Matthew? It was, in fact, just a final struggle for self-preservation. I thought he could save me. But alas, he disdained me. Matthew kept vigil by my bedside every day. He personally wiped my face. Each day, he spoke to me at length, attempting to rouse me from my slumber. My parents never came to visit. My sister, however, came a few times. She said, "Matthew, there's no need for you to sacrifice your life for Olivia. Your time is precious, billed by the minute. I've found the best care home for Olivia. You should return to the company." Matthew quietly continued wiping my hands with a cloth. Teresa spoke again. "Matthew, my mom says the first Sunday of next month is an auspicious day. Suitable for all occasions. Could you ask your father if we could get engaged that day? The engagement process is quite complicated, and I need to choose a dress and have a makeup trial in advance." Matthew tucked the blanket around me. Teresa's voice softened as she took Matthew's hand. Her voice choked with emotion. "Matthew, I know you're so concerned about Olivia because of me. Our whole family is grateful to you. But we have our own lives, and everyone has their own fate. Perhaps, this is Olivia's destiny." By the end, Teresa was wiping away tears. She looked utterly heartbroken. Matthew finally looked up at her and spoke softly. "Teresa, didn't you say that your parents have always favored Olivia since childhood? Emotionally neglecting you. So you've always had to be accommodating and swallow your grievances alone? You said that even though Olivia took everything from you, you still love her dearly? Then why, when you two had a falling out? Was it Olivia who was thrown out of the house and left to wander the streets? Why haven't your parents visited Olivia even once during her long illness? Why, while Olivia lies here between life and death, do you appear radiant every day, laughing joyfully in front of the cameras? Teresa, I'm starting to find you rather puzzling." In my hazy state, I laughed silently. How clever Matthew is. Even if he didn't like or believe what I said before. But given enough time, he could eventually see through many things. Yet, seeing Teresa's awkward, uncomfortable, evasive demeanor, I felt no satisfaction in having the truth revealed. When I needed him, he was reluctant to give. Now, he's willing to stand up for me. But I no longer care. In the dead of night, I was struck with a high fever again. My whole body convulsed, my face contorted in agony. No! Don't hit me, I won't do it again, I really won't. Please, it hurts so much, please let me go. Don't lock me in here, it's so dark, I'm scared. Can you give me anesthesia? So it won't hurt as much when you shock me. I don't want treatment anymore, let me stay ill, I'd rather die. I'll change, I really will, I won't love anymore. Please, just let me die. I can't take it anymore. In the endless darkness, someone pulled me into their embrace. The warmth of their arms seemed to envelop all my pain and sorrow. I longed to draw closer. Yet I feared this was another test. Every time, the doctor used such temptations to test me. If I gave in to the temptation, an even harsher punishment would await me. Still exposing weakness for emotions, it seems the previous conditioning wasn't enough. Increase the dosage, said the bespectacled doctor. I knew all this. Yet still, I didn't push away from this embrace. I think I really am ill. Like a moth to a flame. Craving any warmth. Real or fake. I couldn't control my tears. Helplessly, I asked. I don't love anymore, so why do you still hit me? Matthew, I really don't love you anymore. Can't you ask Teresa to let me go? I swear, when I see you, I don't feel anything. How could I still love you? My tears soaked his shoulder. The arms holding me suddenly stiffened. Then, they began to tremble even more violently than I was. Matthew's terrifying voice rang out. Olivia, are you in so much pain because of me? I shook my head in a daze. No. It's because I love you. But I know it's wrong now. A choked sob escaped from his throat. The investigator sent abroad has returned. Matthew hasn't left my room for days. He says, just tell me here. The secretary gives me a worried glance. Matthew caresses my cheek longingly, his voice low. She's been unconscious for a long time. She can't hear what you're saying. If she could hear, it might be a good thing. Perhaps she'd wake up out of anger. The secretary unfolds the documents in his hand and sighs. Mr. Crawford. Miss Olivia didn't receive treatment from the renowned psychologist you contacted abroad. She was sent to a private clinic by Miss Teresa. The doctor at that clinic is an antisocial psychopath. He claims he can transform any disobedient person into a perfect slave. His methods, both psychological and physical, involve inhumane torture and destruction. He completely disrupts the patient's inner world and then attempts to reassemble it. Many people have been driven mad by his torture. Miss Olivia, her current mental state is actually on the brink of collapse. Matthew's fists clench, making cracking sounds. He seems to be struggling to breathe, his chest heaving violently. After a long while, he finally manages to find his voice with difficulty. Did the Lewis family know about this? How could Teresa allow her sister to endure such torment? The secretary opens his mouth but doesn't dare to speak. Matthew's cold gaze intensifies. Speak. The secretary produces another set of documents. According to my investigation, the private clinic was chosen by Miss Teresa after extensive inquiries. Some of the cruel methods even the psychopathic doctor had reservations about were personally authorized by Miss Teresa's signature. Moreover, when Miss Olivia couldn't bear the torture and escaped many times, it was Miss Teresa who found her and sent her back each time. Silence. A long, heavy silence. Everyone remains quiet. The light from the chandelier cascades down, chaotic photons dancing in the air. A tear rolls down from the corner of my eye. It turns out that just remembering those 3 years fills me with such fear. Helpless and desperate. As if reliving a hell on earth. The secretary hands a notebook to Matthew. It seems Miss Olivia realized her thoughts were becoming increasingly chaotic. And her memory was deteriorating, so she wrote a diary to help her remember. However, towards the end, she forgot about the diary itself. Matthew takes the diary with trembling hands. He reads it word by word. As he reaches the later entries, the usually stoic Mr. Crawford collapses onto my blanket, weeping inconsolably. September 18th, 2021. Today, I've forgotten several times whether I've eaten or not. I can't remember why I was brought here. My memory is getting worse and worse. Moreover, this situation is worsening every day. I secretly found a notebook and started writing down everything that happens each day. From now on, I'll read it every morning when I wake up. This way, I won't forget. September 20th, 2021. Today, my attending physician showed me a photo of Matthew and asked me who he was. In the photo, Matthew was wearing an impeccable suit. Looking noble and handsome, his every gesture captivating. I shyly said, "Matthew, the man I've been in love with for 4 years." That day, the attending physician used the most severe punishment on me. Whenever I looked at Matthew with even a hint of emotion in my eyes, sharp electric currents coursed through my entire body. I was in agony, my face contorted. Yet I couldn't control my longing for Matthew. The attending physician said to make me forget him. I found it laughable. He's Matthew Crawford. How could I possibly forget him? December 24th, 2021. Today, the attending physician brought Matthew's photo again and asked me who he was. I was a bit dazed. I said he was Matthew. At night, I secretly read my diary hidden under the covers. I remembered that feeling of being in love with him. Thank goodness I kept a diary. Otherwise, I might have really forgotten that feeling of my heart racing and my face blushing. May 3rd, 2022. Today, the doctor showed me a photo of Matthew kissing my sister. I shrank back in fear. Because every time I see his photo, I suffer unbearable pain. Now, he's like a menacing beast to me. Terrifying. The attending physician shook his head. You still have an emotional reaction. Olivia, this is not right. Come, let's move on to the next stage of treatment. At night, I helplessly opened my notebook. It said that I once loved Matthew to the point of no return. For him, I abandoned my self-esteem. For him, I could sacrifice everything. I stared blankly at these unfamiliar words. He's so frightening. Why would I ever like him? Were these words really written by me? November 7th, 2022. Today, my sister came to visit me again. I told her about the torture I've endured. I begged her to take me away. She took out a beautiful film still and showed it to me. Olivia, am I beautiful? She asked. I nodded enviously. Very beautiful. I wish I could be as beautiful as you, Teresa. Look at me now, covered in scars, always lacking energy, like a decrepit old woman. My sister asked, "Do you want to be an actress too?" I nodded longingly. Her face immediately darkened. Olivia, you really never learn. It seems it's still not enough. That day, I was locked in a pitch-black room for 5 days. When I came out, I was shaking all over, vomiting white foam. Teresa looked down at me and asked, "Olivia, do you still dare to covet what belongs to me?" I shook my head desperately, even wetting myself on the spot. I don't dare anymore. I'll do whatever you want me to do, okay? Tell me, I'll definitely do it. Stop torturing me, please. Why don't you just let me die? Teresa curved her lips into a sweet smile. Little sister, what are you saying? Killing someone is against the law. I'm a public figure, how could I break the law? The diary abruptly ends on Christmas Eve last year. December 24th, 2024. I'm locked in the attic at the top of the building, looking at the sparse fireworks outside the window. Suddenly, I feel a bewildering sense of not knowing where I am. Have I been living in this attic since I was little? Why are they setting off fireworks? Why don't those people live in attics? Why are they laughing so loudly? It's so strange. Who wrote this diary? This author is so funny. She likes that man called Matthew Crawford so much. She cries for him, laughs for him. How can she be so silly? Is she crazy? Poor thing. If I ever get the chance to meet her, I must tell her. Emotional fluctuations are not allowed. You'll get injections and medicine, and even suffer beatings. The clammy liquid kept dripping onto my neck. I felt awful. but I couldn't open my eyes or move my hands. This sticky discomfort made me feel as if my heart was being devoured by 1,000 ants. I wished I could slam my head against the wall and die right there. If I could control my body, I would have done it without hesitation. After what seemed like an eternity, suddenly a heavy body pressed down on me. It was crushing and suffocating. Someone rushed in. "Mr. Crawford! Mr. Crawford, what's wrong? Quick, call a doctor. Mr. Crawford has fainted." Finally, the person pressing on me was lifted away, and I breathed a sigh of relief. That day, I was drifting through my dreams once again. That familiar scent returned. The man sat by my bed. He seemed to have been drinking. There was a faint aroma of alcohol as he spoke. He was more talkative than usual. "Olivia, you must hate me, don't you? When you loved me, I deliberately avoided you. When you were in pain, I remained uninvolved. I've always acted as if I despised you. I said I hated you clinging to me. I said I didn't like you. You said you knew I didn't like you, but it would be enough if I didn't hate you. When you said those words with tears in your eyes, my heart ached just as much as yours. But, Olivia, you were wrong. I like you. I've liked you since the first night we met. That night, by the river, your will to live seemed even weaker than mine. You smiled and said it was the first birthday that truly belonged to you. As you spoke, tears fell onto the small cupcake in your hand. Yet, you handed me the middle piece with the cherry on top. You didn't know, but when I met your sparkling eyes, I almost cried too. Since my mother passed away, no one had given me the biggest and best part of anything like you did. That night, on the way back as I carried you, you kept swinging your legs, talking about your favorite TV shows and the kitten you'd rescued. I never knew a girl's inner world could be so rich and interesting. I wished that road would never end. Listening to you talk, it felt like my life had become vibrant again. But I also felt deeply ashamed of myself. Because I had just accepted Teresa's confession, and then I fell for her sister. I hated my father for having an affair and hurting my mother. But unknowingly, I was doing something that would hurt Teresa. So after that night, I kept telling myself not to let desire control me. That's why I deliberately distanced myself from you, disliking your presence more and more. Because you had a natural charm that I found increasingly hard to resist, that I wanted to absorb. In the end, to maintain my facade of righteousness, I made the decision I regret most in my life: to send you abroad. As he finished speaking, Matthew's voice became hoarse with pain. He held my hand to his lips and kissed it. "Olivia, today I'm getting engaged to Teresa. But don't worry, I've never liked her. I just saw her as the perfect image. Being with her, I was actually thinking more about the Crawford family's business empire. Using her like this makes me despicable. But it doesn't absolve her of her crimes. Today, I will take away everything she values, leaving her in ruins forever." That evening, Matthew didn't return. I overheard the nurses gossiping outside my room. They said Matthew had played a long video at the engagement party. It was all about Teresa. Teresa's academic fraud was exposed, shattering her image as a top scholar. She had apparently slept with anyone to get roles, completely ruining her reputation for purity. The video focused on how Teresa, out of jealousy for her twin sister, had sent her to an unlicensed mental hospital abroad, torturing her for 3 years. The guests were shocked. Teresa, in her elegant dress, was forced face down onto the floor. She could only watch helplessly as the video was live-streamed to more and more people. She cried uncontrollably. Later that night, videos of my mother's repeated visits to male escorts were leaked. Evidence of my father's tax evasion was submitted to authorities. The Lewis family crumbled overnight. Early the next morning, my parents, who had never visited since I fell ill, came to see me with an elaborate cake. They wept as they apologized to Matthew for their mistakes, begging him to spare the Lewis family for my sake. They wanted to throw me a grand belated birthday party to make up for 25 years of neglect. However, Matthew looked at the massive 3-tiered cake and sneered. "Olivia is allergic to mangoes." As her parents, didn't you know that? Mom and Dad looked embarrassed. Matthew had them thrown out. "Get out. Go to prison and face the consequences." In your next life, don't become parents and ruin children's lives. A few days later, Teresa couldn't bear the shock. She took her own life by jumping into the river. It was said that Matthew deliberately delayed the recovery process. Teresa's body was only allowed to be retrieved after it had swollen beyond recognition. Life seemed to have returned to a state of tranquility. No one came to disturb my deep slumber. Matthew completely abandoned his work at the company, spending his days watching over me. But I still hadn't awakened. Matthew broke down and asked, "Aren't all the indicators normal now? Why won't Olivia wake up?" The doctor sighed helplessly. "Miss Olivia's will to live is too weak. It's as if she doesn't want to wake up herself." It was on a beautiful autumn morning that I left. The autumn breeze was gentle, and all things seemed lazy. I stretched in the sky, relieved that my soul was finally free. This life had been too full of suffering. In my next life, I was allowed to choose the family I would be born into. I observed from above for a long time. Finally, I chose a pair of unfortunate parents. They were poor and down on their luck. But they loved their child dearly. They cared about their child's feelings, worried about their child's shoe size. And during thunderstorms, they would instinctively hold their sleeping child close. They were so gentle, so kind. But their child had died young. They were devastated, losing the will to live. "I'll go to them," I said. However, just as I was running towards my new home, I realized Matthew was chasing after me. Damn, did he really take his own life for me? How annoying! Why was he so bothersome? He had ruined one life for me, was he going to ruin the next one too? I quickened my pace towards rebirth. The Creator hurriedly called out to me, "You can have one more wish granted. What do you want? Money? Status? Beauty? Wisdom? Make your wish before you go." I didn't even look back, hastily waving my hand. "I don't want any of those. I want Matthew Crawford to never find me in this lifetime."